Hi, this is Tom Sands, President of the Iowa Taxpayers Association, bringing you this week's Capitol Preview. Friday of this week will mark the second and final funnel date for this legislative session. Of course, by this Friday is when all Senate files need to be passed through the House policy committees, and all House bills need to be passed through the Senate policy committees. Friday also marks just 4 weeks left of the scheduled end date of this session, so there is much that the legislature needs to get through and accomplished before they can adjourn sine die in 4 weeks. One of the things we have noticed is the appropriation bills are starting to move through some of the respective subcommittees, and of course this is a sign that they're starting to think about the end of session as well. However, to get through the respective subcommittees and then the full appropriations committee and then debated on the floor and sent to the other chamber does take some time, and so they need to be continuing to move on that. So we expect some appropriation bills to continue to move this coming week as well. But there's many policy bills that I would assume both chambers would like to see the other chamber pick up and pass this week, and so this should be a busy week of committee work and subcommittee work, as well as some debate on the House and Senate floor. This weekly schedule, today, Monday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the House Ways and Means Committee has a meeting scheduled. It is an hour block. And then on Thursday, 11 o'clock in the morning, Ways and Means has another meeting scheduled, and it is open until 1 o'clock that afternoon. So if they pass the House Study Bill 165 this week in committee, I would assume and anticipate it to be this Thursday morning. In the Senate Ways and Means Committee, they have one meeting scheduled for this week. It is 11 a.m. on Tuesday, April 2nd. One of the bills I'd like to talk about just a little bit this morning to give you an overview on is Senate Study Bill 1249 or 1249, which is supposed to be the cleanup bill from last year's Senate File 2417, and it goes just a little bit further than just making some clarifications and technical changes. While a lot of the bill does look like the old Department of Revenue technical bill, because there is much of it that is just simply technical changes and clarification, there is some base narrowing provisions and new chapters also inserted in Senate Study Bill 1249. One of the things that it does do is establishes a new exemption for grain bins, including their materials and their replacement parts, and exempt them from sales and use tax, and makes this retroactive to January 1st, 2015. So one would wonder who paid sales tax on a grain bin or replacement parts in 2015 and does not want to. So it'll be interesting to see if that stays in the bill and if the House would take that up. It also exempts from sales tax the sales of optional services or warranty contracts for computer software maintenance or support services furnished to a commercial enterprise used exclusively by that commercial enterprise. One of the other changes that it makes is last year when the legislature tried to bring in out-of-state sellers to collect Iowa sales and use tax or Iowa sales tax. One of the requirements was they had to, if they sold $100,000 or more in gross retail sales, then they would have to start collecting and remitting Iowa sales and use tax, and that requirement still stands, or they could have made 200 or more separate transactions. Well, this Senate Study Bill 1249 strikes that requirement of 200 or more separate separate transactions and just keeps the $100,000 threshold. It does establish a taxation and exemption computers task force. Makes some clarifying language on there was an accidental deletion in the telephone company real property section last year, and it just simply replaces that accidental depletion for a few years. And of course, way back on, I believe on page 30 of the bill, we finally find one of the items we've been asking for is clarification and how Iowa plans to tax the global income, low taxed income, that better known as GILTI. Our first recommendation was that we should decouple from that part of the federal code. The department felt that there was too much similarity between GILTI and FDII, that if you decoupled from one, you would have to do that to the other, so they have treated both the same and left it in there. However, for GILTI, taxpayers that will qualify for the same dividends receive deduction. That applies to Subpart F income and other foreign dividends, and I believe most of our members would be pleased with that. That takes effect January 1st, 2019, because that is when we couple with that provision of the IRC. Finally, one other change that they make is one word, but it has a big impact, is last year when they were defining a manufacturer, they stated in last year's bill, which is now present law, that a manufacturer does not include persons who are not commonly understood as manufacturers, including but not limited to persons engaged in any of the following activities. And then it lists construction, contracting, repairing tangible personal property or real property, providing health care, farming, including cultivating agricultural products and raising livestock. Senate Study Bill 1249 inserts the word primarily, so it does not limit to persons primarily engaged in any of the following activities, thereby allowing persons who do not primarily engage in certain activities to qualify as a manufacturer. That concludes our capital preview for this week. I hope everyone a good week and nobody plays too many April Fool's jokes on you today. But if they do, you can find a way to get them back. Till next week, we will see you right here on our Capital Preview.